A student asked me to explain the CAGED method and had a lot of questions about it. And it's a really interesting concept because I'm not really sure it's a method as much as something that is a way of labeling things that have relationships on the guitar. So it mostly has to do with the relationship or the combination of those 5 letters, CAGED, C-A-G-E-D. Now what those letters have in common on the guitar, that they have a lot of really interesting relationships on the guitar. The main one is, or the first one, can't even be the main one, the first one is that those are the 5 open major chords you can play on the guitar. You can play a C chord, you can play an A chord, you can play a G chord, you can play an E chord, and you can play a D chord. Now these are all major chords that are playable in an open position. And as a matter of fact, those are the only open major chords you can play in an open position. There are 3 other minor chords that can be played as well: E minor, A minor, and D minor. But the CAGED system or label has more to do with shapes of patterns up and down the neck that come out of these chords. And so when we talk about the C shape of a scale, I could put a bar at the 2nd fret and play a chord shaped like C, and I could even play a C scale there. A C shape scale. Now that was using a C shape at the 2nd fret, making it a D scale. So by knowing my C scale in first position, I can turn it into the same, I can use the same pattern to create a different scale at the 2nd fret. That's part of the CAGED system. And I could use other shapes. As I progress further up the neck, I could come to the 5th fret and use the A shape part of the system and use an A shape of a scale that is really now a D scale because of where I moved it. So each of those letters, C, A, G, E, and D, represent a shape of a chord and then a shape of a pattern or a scale that you can play in different places. So really by only memorizing these 5 patterns and chord shapes, you're in very good position to be able to play in any key just by moving them around. So this is one of the great things about the guitar, is that you can learn patterns and then move them to other places without necessarily knowing much about the real key you're in. So if you understand the shapes of the CAGED group and the chord shapes and the patterns, you can now really play in any key. So if I want to play, for example, in the key of F, I just have to think, where can I play my F chords? Well, I could use an E shape at the 1st fret. I could use a D shape at the 3rd fret. I could use a C shape at the 5th fret. I could use an A shape at the 8th fret. And if I went to the 10th fret, I could use a G shape. So I just had 5 different ways of playing an F chord by using those 5 different shapes. That again extends into patterns and all kinds of other things that can be used for playing leads. So it can come in very handy if you're also trying to play a song, a second guitar part, by putting a capo somewhere. You could then play a whole different set of chords using this system. So I will go a lot more into the various, it's a very complex thing, and there are a lot of subcategories of it. So this is really just the first overview of the whole. Again, I kind of hate to call it a system because it's more of just a labeling pattern and a way to memorize things, which is sometimes a good way to learn to play stuff on the guitar. Sometimes it's not a good way. You do have to be careful of too much memorization. So I will go into the pros and cons of this as this series continues.